Magic players, welcome back to more deck list building construction guides. And so far I'm swinging 0 for 2 on making these videos quick, 30 and 35 when my goal was 20 to 25. And now we reach Deadwalkers alphabetically, which for me is the hardest deck in the game to trim. It just is. So chances are I'll be hitting 0 for 3, and that'll suck, but hey, I'll fit right in place with the Detroit Tigers who can't do anything correct. So let's first just take out all of these cards much faster. I freaking love this feature. It's so amazing. And sort by cost, because who the hell wants to sort by rarity or by type? See, by type it goes by cost by default and not by rarity, right? I think, or no, it's still, well, both. It goes by type, rarity, and then cost. Interesting. What's this one? Color? Yeah, let's sort by color in a mono black deck. But hey, sorting by color goes by cost. So the only thing that doesn't go by cost is by rarity. Stupid. I mean, these guys are rare, so why aren't they? Whatever. That's neither here nor there. This zombie deck, for me, is tremendously difficult to trim. And we're just going to go over really how awesome all of these freaking cards are. This deck is kind of the anti-metagame deck. It has potential to really do anything and be very versatile in any situation. So if you want it to play a certain way and beat a certain type of deck, you can. If you want to build it completely differently and beat different decks, you can. And that's really where we're going to go. Gravecrawler. 1 for a 2/1, can't block, and he always comes back. He always comes back. He is a zombie through and through, as pure as a zombie can be, and he can't block. That is his downside, and it's not much of a downside, but it's enough of a downside where it makes me very unhappy that I feel forced to play all of them, but he's kind of the heart and soul of the deck. You have to go with that. Diregraph Ghoul, if you want to go for a pure out blitzing build, then probably just play humans or illusions instead, but you know, whatever. I personally don't really like it. I don't want to commit 5 creatures in the first 5 cards that can't block. There have been plenty of games where it was a close game, damage was going both ways. I really needed a creature that I could draw, and he would help me out, and I was going to lose if I didn't get a blocker or a removal spell or a land to play something else that's in my hand that I couldn't cast, and then I top tick a Gravecrawler. It's like, nope, you don't help me win the game, I can't block. Oh, you come into play tap, now I lose. So I'm not really a fan of them at all, but under a certain build, sure, why not, He's a 2/2 that, he's not going to attack turn 1 anyway, and, there's not going to be any hasty guys at 1 or 2, really, that you want to concern yourself with blocking, so, whatever. I just don't want to draw him late either, because then it's really dumb. Vial of Poison, just don't play it. Quest for the Gravelord. I would rather play this than the Diregraph Ghoul, because it gets you something fatter, and you can control when you pop it into play as well. So if you're worried, you're playing against a white deck and you don't want to get something Day of Judgmented or whatever, I don't know, if you're playing against red, you fear a Flame Break and you have board advantage, just sit there with it, unless you really need it to hit. It can sit there as an enchantment and then pop itself later. So it's got more versatility and it's bigger. I would rather run that, despite the fact that it's not quite a creature itself. Vampiric Tutor, run it. I shouldn't have to tell you why. Reanimate. This card's interesting. We're going to hold off on it for the moment, because really the point of Reanimate is to get really big fat stuff out way before you're normally supposed to be able to, or at least the main point of Reanimation decks, if you look at Legacy and things like that, is to get cards like a Chroma out on turn 2 or whatever. Like, okay, that's fair. But in this deck you use it more to try and get your lords back after they've been removed, which is a little different from normal. It does make the penalty of it even less, which makes it very enticing to me. I just haven't ever drawn it when I've had it in the deck, and I haven't always had it in the deck, and I've never drawn it when I've been trying to test it. So we'll leave it off for now. Bloodghast, it's not a zombie, so it doesn't quite fit the synergy and the theme, but Bloodghast is just too good to not include. The fact that it comes back still has synergy with other things like Grave Pact and other sort of stuff where you want stuff to die and all sorts of fancy things like that, where you need to sacrifice creatures such as Fleshbag Marauder, Death Cloud, things like that. It's too good of a creature to not run. It forces them to block it unless they want stuff to take damage and die. So I run it even though it's not a zombie. There are a couple people I know of who don't because it's not a zombie, and I just don't feel like that's worth it. He's straight up a better creature than Digraph Wool. He just is. He doesn't get bonuses from the lords, but on his own he's just a better creature, so I play him. Meh. If that's bad, so be it. Butcher Ghoul, 1 for a 1/1 Undying. I really like it because the Undying mechanic comes into effect with a lot of different synergy with the card. With what am I saying? Has a lot of different synergy with different cards in the deck. It allows him to chump block something early, come back stronger, and then just be a bigger deal. Especially if you cast him and then think, oh, he's just a 1/1. I'll attack with my 2/2. You block, he comes back as a 2/2. So you cast him as a 1/1, and now when it's your turn and he can do something, he's magically twice as big. Like, okay. So I like that. He has great synergy with the deck as well, so I think he's really worth using. Black Cat. It might not look very fantastic, but because the discarded card is random, it can actually potentially win you the game. If they have, you know, just a couple of cards in their hand and one of them is really deadly and it gets chosen, they're like, oh, crap, now I can't do that anymore. I was kind of counting on that. People will not want to block it. They will take the 1 point over the card at random. So if the board is a little bit locked up and people can't really move either way, just swing in the cat just to ping it on a few damage. Or if they have board position and you have a kitty, they're not necessarily going to want to swing in. So if he can stall your opponent a couple of turns in which they have an advantage on the board and they don't attack because they're afraid of this random card, they don't want to lose that power in their hand, that's absolutely, you can't really ask for much more. It counts as a zombie, so I think you should run at least 2. I personally run 3, especially if you're going to have a bunch of grave crawlers and Digraph Ghouls that can't block. You're going to want guys whose purpose is to be there to block and mess them up. That's kind of how I feel. I love them. They're amazing. I prefer them over Walking Corpse because of that, even though he's weaker. I prefer this guy over Walking Corpse because of the Undying. I mean, he's a 2/2 for 2, and he's a 1/1 for 2 at the same time. Whereas this guy is just vanilla. I don't like vanilla creatures, just get out. But I suppose if you're running mad aggro, include these guys as well. It's a possibility. He's not going to fit mine just for the moment though. Doomblades, 2-drop removal, use it. Exhume, each player puts a creature card from his graveyard onto the battlefield. If you play it early, that can potentially be an advantage. If you play it late, very 50-50 depending on the deck you're playing. Cards like this are generally better in Reanimator decks, which Duels of the Planeswalkers will never get. Stuff like this is so that you can, let's say you're going second, so you draw a card, you have 8 cards in your hand, you don't play a land, you discard your Grave Titan, and then the next turns you play your land, you play your second land on turn 3, you exhume Grave Titan. Like, oh, okay. Like that's kind of the point of what Exhume likes to do, but it just, I don't know, having one of it and not being a deck centered around it, it obviously still always has the drawback of your opponent gets to do the same thing, and in a format with Eldrazi in the format, that's not a good thing. You don't want them getting Eldrazi for free. So, especially if Eldrazi randomly got discarded by a black cat, you know, that can potentially hurt. If you don't run the black cats, I suppose it's better, but you probably should run them. Sign in Blood, run it. If you think drawing or losing 2 life is a bad thing, then you don't know anything about black cards. And in a pinch, if your opponent is getting down there really low, such as like 4 or less life, you can flash this thing out there and be like, oh yeah, I can deal 2 damage directly to your face. That's pretty solid. You can win the game with it. Shrivel, it's a very good card that just never will make the cut, I don't think. It allows you to suicidally attack with everything, and even if all your stuff dies in blocking, you can then proceed to cast this and wipe their board. Or potentially just kill off a bunch of their little weenie guys if you're playing the human deck and they just threw out 6 1/1 tokens in your face. I don't know. It's a really good card that just probably isn't going to cut it. Because you have a lot of, not only do you have a lot of 1 toughness creatures as well, actually so far every creature's 1 toughness here, that's hilarious. Your deck doesn't quite care as much about your guys dying, but so be it. Now we're getting to the zombie lords. This is the good stuff. He says zombie, he says lord, other stuff gets +1/+1, has some other ability. It's good, it's also irrelevant because he's already automatically included. This guy, he's automatically included. Again, he comes into the battlefield tapped. So it's like we're looking at turn 1 Gravecrawler, can't block. Turn 2 Digraph Ghoul, or switch them however you want to do it. Turn 3, playing this guy, comes in tapped. You have no defense if you're running all of this stuff, so you gotta be really careful with things like that. Oh yeah, turn 2, Bloodghast, can't block, and it's just like, man, it makes it really tough if you're trying to run all of that stuff, but as far as his offensive prowess goes, he's way better than the other things. He automatically makes up for himself by dealing 2 damage immediately. People have to block him at some point, otherwise they're taking 3 points. If people do block him and he dies, they lose 2 more life, and then he comes back even bigger, and he can still definitely block, you know, just not first turn. But he's definitely a must-run. He's crazy powerful. Death Baron, other guys you control get bigger and better. Okay, run it. Fleshbag Marauder. Some people, I don't know if they realize how powerful this guy is, especially with things like, I don't know, an undying creature, or a card that makes them discard stuff, or guys that come back for Affinity. You can just attack with them and then play this guy and blow up your worthless dude who comes back or has an effect for dying, and they lose a creature as well. In a pinch, if you need a removal spell, you can cast him and sacrifice himself. But I think he's must run. His 3 power is no joke either. He can definitely trade with a creature once he's still there. So you attack with a Gravecrawler. You cast this guy after the Gravecrawler gets 2 damage through, because who the hell wants to block a creature that's going to come back immediately anyway? That sucks. So you cast this guy, you kill your Gravecrawler, you kill their creature, you get your Gravecrawler back, and then he either deals 3 damage or he trades with another creature and kills another thing. He's card advantage wrapped up in a blanket of zombie flesh and pointy bone sticks. So you play him. Staff of the Death Magus, or Magus, however you want to say it. Magus makes it sound like maggot, but you know, whatever. These staves are bad because life gain is bad. However, 2 little stipulations here. In this deck, because of things always coming back with Undying and Gravecrawlers all the time, it is slightly better in this deck than the other decks. At the same time, this deck is even tougher to cut, and it's already too thin, and there's going to be amazing cards that you have to leave out just to keep your deck at 60 or 61. So despite the fact that this card is better in this deck than other decks, it has even less of a chance of making the cut, which is too bad. But there was one game I played where some dude had 2 of these on the field and he gained so much damn life, I couldn't win, even though I was kicking his ass. It's like, here's 6 points to the face, oh look, he just gained 5 life. Here's 6 more points to the face, oh look, he gained 4 life. I'm like, really, this is stupid. So it's got potential, but please just don't run it anyway. Soul Bleed, don't run it. Grim Return. It's a very, very good card. Instant speed. Works for either graveyard, so you can do it during your turn, during their turn. You can steal their creatures or not. It makes it very, very potent and very powerful. The only downside really is that because it has to be the same turn, you can't really afford to wait, so you have to have that extra land that you're not using, which this deck so far has a lot of low-cost stuff. You're really going to be using all your land a lot. So that is the one problem with it, but it's still probably worth playing at all times. And my throat is killing me now. Sorry, I had to take a drink for a second. I feel like Gubs. Death Cloud. This card is amazing. The only reason you wouldn't want to play it is because of the cost. It's a little high. A Death Cloud for 1 or 2 probably is not going to help you. If you're casting Death Cloud for 1 or 2, at that point you're casting it mostly for the discard X cards, and you notice they have 2 cards in their hand. That's probably the reason you would do it at that point. Death Clouds of 3+ are what really change the landscape of the game, especially if you have stuff with either A, Undying, B, you have Grave Pact on the field. The best 1v1 game I've ever played to date in this game resulted in me top decking a Death Cloud when I was completely screwed, nuking the whole board, and then I realized that I had perfect amount of lands just to kill him with the Cloud anyway. So it's, you can kill them, you can nuke their hand, you can clean your board up, or you can completely stall them. If you realize they were a little bit land screwed and you have board position, just nuke a couple of their lands, because they're already not drawing them, so then they have to draw a couple just to get back to where they were, which wasn't good enough. So it's a must-run card, despite the fact that it's going to be tough to get it to cast. It's just way too good. And we get another one in the promo releases, and I don't know if you want to run 2, but you want to run 1. Liliana's Reaver, 4 power, 4 cost, Death Touch. That's very, very good. It's a zombie as well. When it deals damage to a player, they discard a card, which because of Death Touch, they may not want to block it and have their stuff die. And then you get a dude for free. He's absolutely amazing. You run him. Likewise, this guy, 4 cost, 3 power first strike, so it's not quite as deadly, but the first strike is huge. And when a creature that deals in combat with him and is unfortunately weaker, you also gain life for it. So he's very good offensively and defensively. He's got a little bit higher power on him. His cost is a little bit steeper, but people are when he lands the board, people are not going to want to attack because they're not going to want to lose their creature. It's just insult to injury. They lose a creature and you gain life for that. That's not the point of trying to attack people to kill them. You attack them to kill them. You don't attack them to give them life. So he's very deadly in that regard, especially once you start getting a couple of these lords up here, giving him +1/+1, or giving him Death Touch. First strike with Death Touch is amazing. You put this guy out here, and now he's a 4/3 Death Touch first strike. You have to block him with 5 creatures to kill him because first strike Death Touch, 1 point apiece, dead. It's crazy. Undead War Chief, your stuff is less to cast, so you can play more of it, and your stuff all becomes deadly as hell. And it's not other zombies like most lords, it includes him as well. So don't look at the 1/1 and think he's bad. He's a 3/2, and he makes all your stuff nice and crazy. So you play both of them, especially if you're going to play all sorts of little stuff like this. Suddenly your 1 toughness creatures are beating them in the face, and they're coming back with Undying, and they're coming back as Gravecrawler never goes away. You absolutely run both. Endless Ranks of the Dead. This card's amazing. I used it for a very long time in my build, and then I took them out just to really see, like, if I took these out, what could I get that could make more of an immediate impact? This is more of a long-term effect if you want a slower game, or if you're playing in Two-Headed Giant. It takes some time to ramp up there, and it takes time for it to get out of control, but it eventually will get out of control. But I took it out just to kind of see what else I could put in for it, and then once I put in other stuff for it, I was never able to find something to cut to put this back in. So I don't know, maybe it's worth running 1. I ran 2 at first because the power of it is so crazy if you let it get out of control, and that I wanted to make sure I had the best chance to get it that I could. But at this point, I'm not going to put it in anymore just now. Grave Pact, you absolutely run this card. When your stuff dies, they have more stuff die. So whether it's Undying, whether it was them using removal, whether it was stuff trading in combat, whether it was Fleshbag Marauder killing things, whether it was Death Cloud killing things of theirs and then killing things of yours, which kill more things of theirs. That's how I won that game I was talking about, by the way. Crazy. Absolutely run it. Tendrils of Corruption. Kill creature, gain life, yes. Mutilate. Wipe board, save the game, yes. Consuming Vapors. Kill a dude, gain life. Kill a dude again, gain more life, yes. The best part about this is if they only have 1 creature on the field and they have, like, let's say they have 5 land in play and they have 1 creature left because you've been doing a lot of trading and stuff. It's worth it to kill that 1 creature depending on what your next play is, because then they are unable to cast any sort of creature. If they want to, it's just going to immediately get killed when you take your turn. It won't even be able to block or anything. In a pinch, you can have it sacrifice your own guy to gain some life as well and come back. It works great with Grave Pact, kill your own guy, gain life, and then kill one of theirs. You're going to gain life regardless, I suppose, but it's more of like if you needed a target for something, really. You wouldn't voluntarily kill your own guy unless there was a very good reason for it. I guess you could technically voluntarily kill him and gain life, and then he'll come back stronger, and then they lose 2 life if you really needed to get 2 damage through and you couldn't. I suppose that's possible, but whatever. I shouldn't need to argue this card. You play that card. It's amazing. This guy is pretty much a Gravecrawler that costs a lot more for 2 extra power, so you don't really want to play him. This guy, he's not that good. If he was 4 to cast, you could consider him, but not at 5. It's just not enough. If it was -3/-3, I would probably run him. If he was 4 to cast, you could potentially run him, but not as he is. There's too much better stuff. Cruel Revival. This card is amazing. You destroy a card, and then you get a card to your hand. It's not to play, but it's still an instant. It's a 2-for-1. It's very good. However, we're going to hold off for just a second, because we see we have 57 cards, which means we get 3 more bombs. We don't have any bombs right now. Everything is 4 or less in aggro. So we're going to take a minute just to look at our bombs. We see Grave Titan, auto-include. We see Micaeus, who's this guy, destroys humans, gives your dudes +1/+1. Okay, wait, it gives all my non-humans undying. That's amazing. He's pretty much must play, I think. So now we're looking at, we have 1 extra card here. We still want to run the Corrupts because it gains life, it's removal, you can use it to directly kill players. And then unfortunately we're already at 61 cards. And this is why this deck is so hard for me to trim, because I have to trim 1 card. I still absolutely want to include at least 1 Nightmare, because they're so good. They can win the game by themselves. It's the only thing in the game that would, or in this deck, that would have flying, and thus be able to get in through the air or block other things in the air. He's going to be minimum 6/6, potentially more. He's so good. He doesn't fit the zombie theme, but by himself he's just such a brute force. I really want to include him, and I just don't have space. I really want to include these, and I don't know where to put it. Even just a couple of them. The cost is a little high, sure. I could potentially take out a land. That's kind of how I roll with illusions and humans. But 6 drop, 6 drop, 6 drop, 6 drop. Like, that's too many 6 drops. If these were 5 drops, I would go down to 22 and then include 1. But they're not. They're 6. You want to make sure you have lots of land. You want to be able to do multiple things at once, so you can kill guys and cast creatures at the same time. So I think you have to stick at 23. 22 would be the absolute minimum to go down here. So it's like, I want to add at least 2 of these. I want to add a Nightmare. That's 3 cards. That puts me at 64. What's up, Super Blah? But yeah, that puts me at 64. I really want to add at least 1 of these. That puts me at 65. You know, I wouldn't hate having Reanimate. It's really good to get your Lords back, because your Lords are absolutely going to get removed. But that puts me at 66. And that's just not okay. It's just not. So this is why I tell you guys, this is the hardest deck for me to trim. So we've gone over the cards. We know what's good. We know what's not. And it's also tough because you can do a late game type deal. You can do, you know, removal heavy. Zombie Apocalypse is hilarious as hell, but it returns them tapped is the problem. So you can potentially still cast it. Even if you get a huge army, you can still get your ass kicked. Destroying all humans is rarely going to come into play. I guess, you know, humans is 30% of the game on 1v1, but, you know, whatever. It's got potential. But it's just, where am I going to go? Like, you should have enough removal where you don't necessarily need that to kill illusions, or humans. 7 and 9, they're not going to make it just because they cost too damn much. Get out of here. I don't even want to look at them. They're powerful, but cards at 7 and 9 should win you the game. So looking at these cards, like, what would I want to cut first if I had to cut something? I don't know. Maybe Death Cloud, as epic as I know that it is, simply because the cost is high. Maybe Grim Return, simply because of the situationality. That's not a word, but I'm making it a word. That is one benefit to English. You can just add suffixes and affixes to stuff and everyone will understand what you're saying, even if it's a fake word. Just because of how situational it is, it makes me not really want to run it, but it's also just so good. I need to cut 1 card somewhere, as much as I really want to add this stuff. So it's like, do I want to care more about killing something and getting something back, or just getting something back that was killed a little bit less? I don't know. I'm going to pop it out for the moment, just because I want to see 60 over here. It makes me feel better about myself. You have to play the Lords. You just do. You have to play the Doomblades because it's Doomblade. I suppose the cats could potentially get out, but then you're cutting yourself a little bit short on extra fodder and extra blocking, and you know, they serve such a great purpose. And if you wanted to cut yourself short on other 1-drops, like a lot of people want to use these, and you know, the Quest for the Gravelord and the Digraph Ghouls. Like, I'm already trying to cut stuff because I want to throw in bigger things, which shows that this can easily be, you know, a high-end deck as well, instead of an aggro beat to the face. You can go either way. You can go utility, you can go balance. It's just really tough to build. It depends on your play style, and this is one of those decks where you're going to have to play it a lot to see what cards you like playing, see what cards help you, and you have to see it in matchups against all the kinds of decks too. Like, don't just play 100 games against humans. You got to play 15 games against 7 different kind of decks in this game to really be able to see, because not only do you have to play with the stuff against the stuff, you then have to start getting your 1 and 2, the cards that you only have 1 and 2 of, often enough in each of those to realize if you do or do not want it. And really it's just going to take a lot of individual flavor, and that's where we're going to have to end off. There's a lot of cards in here I still want to add, excuse me, but this is absolutely a work in progress for me personally all the time. I tried to warn you guys about that at the beginning. Taking a look at the promo cards that we're going to get, it's going to give us another Grave Titan, another Reanimate, maybe not the Reanimate I wouldn't use, I'm already not using the first one, but Grave Titan, how can you not? He wins the game by himself. He makes a permanent impact, and his zombies get boosted by your lords. Like, that's crazy. Another Undead War Chief, which you have to run. Demons of Deathgate, you probably wouldn't run. Gravespawn Sovereign, probably not run. Another Nightmare, it's like, ugh, great, I already can't find space for the 2. Rise of the Dark Realms, no. Avatar of Woe, maybe? Maybe. Another Death Cloud, probably not, we already have 1. And then a Graveborn Muse, which is crazy powerful, but you're already hurting yourself a little bit with your own sacrifices. And you, like, playing Graveborn Muse, you have to know that you're going to be able to win the game in just a couple of turns. And if you don't, you killed yourself. Which, yes, that's kind of the very, very, very old school motto of Black, is Black Suicide. But it's a high risk, high reward card. So I don't know if it's an automatic include or not, despite that. But the War Chief has to, for sure. What else was in here? I think the War Chief is the only automatic include, but Grave Titan is debatably right there. So then we're talking, I'm looking at 69 card deck. If I wanted to throw in everything that I wanted, hell, that's not even everything I want, because I still would like some of these other early things, and I just can't find it, If you want to go a life gain build, you can throw those in there. It's just really tough, guys. So here's a strict, not a strict, here's a very loose guideline. Do with it what you will. This deck will be very good for you. It's very fun to play. You actually get to play Magic and like do things as opposed to just play creatures and attack. I suppose I could drop a calf or something. What to do? Yeah, I'll just do that. Why not? Whatever. I don't care. We'll just save that. And hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of help. Probably didn't, but whatever. I tried to warn you. So this one was tough for me to build. Next one we're going to do is Enter the Dracomancer, which is so much fun. Thank you guys for watching. Go kick some ass. Peace.